Laura, and thank you, Minister, for giving me the time to ask you the progress made towards the establishment of a National Memorial and Record Centre under point 7 of the Action Plan for Survivors and Former Residents of Mother and Baby Homes and County Home Institutions. I know that it is something that you're working on, and I know also that you are very committed to this. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Deputy, and I know your own interest in the issue of memorialisation and the work you've done locally in Carlow on this. The establishment of a National Memorial and Record Centre is a core commitment within the plan and provides a basis for several other interdependent projects. The National Centre will stand as a national memorial in honour of those who are resident in mother and baby and county institutions, industrial schools, Magdalen laundries and other related institutions. And I believe it will make a significant contribution in our journey of recognising and learning from the failures of the past, acknowledging the hurt which continues to be felt by survivors and seeking to rebuild a relationship of trust with those who have been so gravely wronged. With the intention of advancing this project as a priority, the Secretary-General to the Government has been appointed to lead a cross-government process to advance work on a National Memorial and Record Centre. This process, which will include engagement with survivors, will develop an overarching vision and proposed approach for the creation of the National Centre. Once this initial work is complete, a proposal will be brought to Government for approval. And I've secured funding of €1 million per annum for both 2022 and 2023 to support the immediate preparatory work and research needed to deliver this centre. The National Centre will include an archive of records related to institutional trauma, alongside personal accounts of survivors' lived experience, as well as presenting the historical and social context. More generally, my department has already appointed an archivist and established a dedicated information management unit to lead on the preservation and access to our records, including the Commission's archive. In addition to the National Centre, work is being advanced in conjunction with the local authorities to deliver on the commitment to support local memorialisation across the country. Furthermore, financial support is available from my department through the commemorative grant scheme to support survivor groups in commemorating their experiences in a manner which fits their own specific needs. We've learned from our consultation with survivors, memorialisation is very important to many of them, but it means many different things to different people. And recognising this, consistent consultation will be facilitated to ensure the process is informed by those most centrally involved with the experiences. And
thank you, Minister, and I'm delighted to hear that. I think it is important that the survivors play a very important role in this, and and we've all learned from from our meetings with survivors the importance of access to records, and that there is no barriers there. And I think that is our commitment from this government, that we will make sure that no survivors that want to access their records can have barrier after barrier. I also want to say that I'm delighted that the Secretary-General of the Government will chair this. I think that's very important, Minister. And I suppose like I myself, like others, have been working with survivors in my own area, and you learn, and I think it's something that we all will remember, because listening to stories and everything and the journey that survivors had, I think this National Memorial will have I think it will play a huge part in maybe helping the journey for them, because that's all we can do. As you said, Minister, we can only help them as best we can and make sure that we're there to give them that support.
Thanks very much. No, I agree with you, Deputy. I think the National Records and Memorial Centre is going to be really important. It will be important for survivors themselves, as it will be I suppose, a physical manifestation of recognising what happened to them, and it will allow a place for, as you say, their stories, their personal accounts to be told. It's important for society as well, in terms of educating people about what happened in these institutions. It's also in terms of a historical perspective, ensuring a single place where these records are accessible to historians, accessible to maybe individuals researching information about their families. But I would also think it's important that these records are available in a very accessible format online as well, recognising that the survivor community is an international community. It's all over the world, and it should be easy for them to access these really important records wherever they are living now.
Yeah, and absolutely, Minister, I totally agree with you. Access, whether it's online or even going through your local authority or going through your HSE or whatever, that is important, and I think that's the message that we have to send out to survivors, that we are there to help them to access their records if they need them. And the other thing I want to ask is, do you have a time scale on this, Minister? I know you're saying, and I want to welcome the funding, but I just feel now that with all the work that you've been doing in the government, and I know on the Children's Committee we've been working really hard to working with the survivors, that I think timing is very important here, and I just know that we need to get this up and running as soon as possible, and just letting survivors know. Communication, Minister, is the key, and I know that that is another priority for you, but letting everyone know what's happening, keep them updated, whether we do it through, maybe you could set up some sort of a line, or maybe some communications through the different departments, but I always believe communication is the key, and that is the best way forward.
Minister, to conclude.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that point of communication, and my department are endeavouring. We're sending out a quarterly bulletin now to those survivors. We've about 500 survivors on the mailing list who we engage with in terms of on a quarterly update, but also letting them know when major announcements are being made in terms of the institutional payments announcement recently, and updates on other legislative provisions. So that communication is there, and Deputy, if there are any survivors in your own constituency who would like to be added to that, let me know and we can do that. I think we want to advance the National Records and Memorials Centre quickly. The Secretary-General for the Government is probably in the best place to bring together the diverse government departments, the agencies to undertake that work. So I know he's bringing together this group to undertake that initial scoping work. Get that element of survivor consultation done as well, though. So it's a balance between moving quickly but making sure there is adequate consultation as well. But I think we'll strike that balance and move this project, this really important project, quickly.
Margaret, the next question? No. And the next one? Okay, so moving on to question 11. Dr. Brendan Griffin.
Minister, this question asks what level of collaboration there is between sporting organisations and Sport Ireland and our youth services, and in relation to what benefits we can leverage from the footprint that sporting organisations have throughout the country in terms of our communities, and whether that can be beneficial to our youth services.
Thanks very much, Deputy. And sporting activity obviously has a major role to play in young people's development and addressing many of the needs of young people. And the programme offered by various different departments can collectively offer that kind of holistic response to the needs of young people. The infrastructure of youth services across the country, which are funded by my department, includes the 30 national youth organisations, a significant number of local clubs, and the youth function of the Education and Training Board. And it works closely with agencies and local organisations, including many sporting bodies, on areas of mutual interest. And I and my officials, we're always happy to engage with any organisation that is interested in our policy role. At a national level, my department participates in an interdepartmental sports leadership group. It's chaired by Minister Chambers, and it oversees the implementation of the national sports policy. The Sports Action Plan 21 to 23, published by Minister Chambers in recent days, includes actions to increase participation in sport by young people. And one key action is the convening of a youth-centred stakeholder forum in early 22, and youth organisations will be consulted as part of this process. UBU, Your Place, Your Space, is the main scheme for youth services that's funded by my department, and the scheme provides out-of-school supports to marginalised, disadvantaged or vulnerable young people to enable them to achieve their full potential. And it recognises that youth services engage with young people through a very wide range of activities. They might include drama, music, or indeed sport, for example. So in addition, there are some legacy sport-related supports that meet the criteria for UBU, and they've continued to be funded on that basis. So obviously I'm happy to continue to engage across government on the issue of support for youth and sport. My department will always work very collaboratively with youth organisations and indeed with agencies like Sport Ireland to advance this.
Dr. Griffin.